Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sour Saas. Today, I am joined by the CMO of LogicGate, Gina Hortatsos. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
How did I do on the last name, by the way? Was that like A plus?
That was
A
awesome. I was actually wondering if during the pre-call you were going to ask me how to pronounce it because it's been mispronounced 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, I played a little game called see if I can do it right, and then no. I have my last name is hilarious, so I've kind of figured out last names. I was going to potentially have to do jury duty this week. And they didn't even try. They were just like, Garrett Mehrguth, yeah. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just hear it out.
Well, my name is very common on the island of Crete. So if you ever go there, they never mispronounce our name when we go.
I love that. Well, I need to get to more islands. I usually just go to the islands with like a blue cheeseburger or something, and that's not the same.
Not really.
Not really the same at all. Now, LogicGate, I had some questions just around kind of thoughts, strategy, things you all are doing, and love to get feedback. You guys still have your number in the menu. Are people calling you?
People are calling us. Yeah, we get a fair amount of inbound calls. Buyers are in control, and when they're ready to talk, they want to talk as soon as humanly possible. So either chatbot or calls.
Yeah, I find that so interesting because I saw you guys are running the chat bot and you guys have a lot of different playbooks going there. But I was so curious because a lot of people have kind of almost like moved away. Like they're not using prime real estate for phone numbers anymore. Do you kind of see that as a mistake, or kind of like how do you
I think that any way that you can remove friction from the buyer's journey, I mean, a phone number doesn't take up much real estate anyway. So if they want to call, whatever medium they want to use to talk to us, we'll take.
I love that. Now, I am a huge proponent of like decreasing psychological friction when essentially going from, hey, I have this need. I see which part of the need LogicGate solves. But God, I hate demos. Right. And that's kind of the hard part of the consumer. So how do you deal with that at like where you have the product across so many industries, so many solutions, so many different pieces? How are you thinking about product-led growth and getting essentially people into your product sooner when you're not selling a singular solution?
Right. We do the best job we can of listening. When we did our journey mapping exercise, which we refresh on a yearly basis, but if there's something new coming out, we'll refresh it maybe a mid-cycle. We think about, we actually try to put our feet in the buyer's shoes and think about their information needs and their buying job at each step of the journey. We know what makes it easier for us, the kind of traditional like disco call demo, ask for the deal is, really not a thing anymore. And so both our sales teams and our marketing teams have gone through a set of training and methodologies that was designed to probe for understanding what the buyer pains are, understanding what positive business outcomes are, and then mapping those journeys across all the members of the buying committee to what those buying jobs are and what their information needs are. And then we do the best we can, both in marketing and sales interactions, to provide the answers to their information needs at that step in the journey. And sometimes it is a demo early. I mean, we have a ton of content on our website to educate the prospect. We have a lot of videos which actually show the product kind of in action. And so, I would actually say that prospective customers or friends we haven't met yet is what I talk to my marketing team about. I'm like, they're not prospects, they're friends we haven't met yet. What actually people do ask for demos pretty early because there have been so many interactions before they even raise their hand and want to talk to us. And they've been able to view video content. They've been able to kind of look at, the other members of the competitive set to kind of understand what they're all about ahead of time. And if they're not ready yet, we're not going to slam a demo down your throat if that's really not what you want and that doesn't satisfy your information needs at that time.
I love that. Now, I want to go a little further on this stuff. I think there's something here, and I want to hear from your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think the goal of the demo, right? If we're just thinking about it theoretically, the goal of the demo is you're trying to show the customer that you can solve their individual problem with your technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can either save time, increase value. There's some type of reason why you exist, and we're trying to convince that consumer of why we exist and the problem or pain we help them solve, or the opportunity we help them grasp, right?
Yeah.
Now, the product-led growth community, and I do think no matter what, within the next 2 years or so, everyone's going to have to figure out how to let someone play with their product, because technology is becoming consumerized, if that makes sense. Like, we're all so used to using it at a B2C level that we're kind of like, give it to me, let me play with it, I'll decide if I want it or not. I think it's kind of the truth of what the buyer in their heart of hearts is used to and wants.
Yeah.
What are some of the roadblocks for a business like LogicGate to be able to create a sample environment that allows a consumer to play with the product? And like, why do you think it's so hard? Because it's not just you. It's not like a LogicGate. It's like a whole industry. Like, everyone who's in this B2B, more enterprise, kind of space, no one's able to do this, but everybody's wanting to. So what do you think? What do you think you're going to have to do in these next 2 years to try to get there? Like, what do you think that takes for that change?
Yeah. We do offer kick the tire environments. Awesome. We do it within the sales. It's not just anybody can just download a free trial, not currently. But customers, friends we haven't met yet, or friends we have met but haven't written a check yet. We do work with them if they need a sandbox environment to really understand how to actually work with the solution in their environment, so they can get hands-on keys and get that experience. And one of the reasons that our customers choose us, and if you look at our reviews on some of the review sites, they talk about this, is the fact that business people can actually build their own applications. They have to get some basic guidance and training on how to actually drag and drop and what the different objects are and how to link them together. But after that, they can build their own. And for anyone who understands, which I don't, but for anyone who understands software engineering, it's incredibly difficult to provide a very intuitive drag and drop interface for a business user that doesn't require custom code or an IT admin. The architecture on that back end is incredibly complex to make it easy on the front end. There just is very little going around that, and so I think that we are continuing to march down that road. I think we do want to get to a point where people can have an app like and try like experience a little bit earlier in the funnel. And we also do not want to deviate from our platform first, buy one thing, build whatever you need to. The business people who own these processes can build whatever they need to build and customize exactly as they want, because that's huge for our customers.
And that makes it even harder, right? Because you're selling a platform, which is different than selling an individual solution. It's
not a tool. It is a platform that can be used for any different process that you have to automate that helps you manage risk and compliance processes. So we definitely, we are looking at it. We understand that the buyer experience typically includes, especially for simple software, and we're going to keep marching down that road.
Yeah, I love that, because it's not like we're managing millions and millions of dollars to spend, publicly traded private SaaS companies. Nobody at the platform levels figured it out. And I am, as an outside consultant, I guess, convinced that the first person in every industry that can will win. Do you know what I mean? Like, the first person that figures that out and can be like, oh, you want to test drive a car? Sure, show up anytime and we'll let you test drive the car. And then you get to decide after driving the car and had that magic moment where you're like, this is a little better than my current car. I think I want this car. And then you talk with the salesperson. It's kind of funny to think about it, but like, that's how we buy everything else. And then somehow enterprise to mid-market platform SaaS is different. And it's for real reasons.
Yeah. It's very complex. What people, the business problems that people are trying to solve for are very, very complex, very nuanced. And if you screw it up, you could be in big trouble. You could be in violation of a law or what have you. And so, the way we think about it is, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And context and reference is crucial. And so I even think if we're ever to offer, when we are able to offer a try and buy experience, that guided, like just explaining what's going on as you're doing it and providing that context and reference is absolutely crucial to helping customers map in their heads. I remember.
Well, it's like the dealership, right? When you go to the dealership, they don't let you drive the car by yourself. There's
Right.
someone in there. They're like, here's where the button. I know it sounds crazy to think we should be more like dealerships, but like it's kind of like ironic that it's like that is what, like, ideally, right? Someone comes to our website, we have the dealer person that meets them, we put them in the car, we walk them through the car with them, and then they can go leave. They can do whatever they want. We get their information, and now we're selling them after they've experienced the car, which is a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. I'm going to date myself, but I remember many, many, many years ago when we implemented our first CRM. We bought Siebel at this company I worked at.
Yeah.
And we before were literally managing pipeline and customer relationships on spreadsheets, like whatever version of Excel 2.0 or something was out back then. And everybody knew that buying a system like Siebel at the time, which was the cutting edge system, was going to be a game changer for our company. That we absolutely needed it. We had gotten to the point where like we literally couldn't do it anymore. And even then, even with the necessary and powerful and transformational opportunities that bringing a system like that would mean to our business and our ability to scale, it was still very difficult, even for those. I mean, we were a software company. We were buying another piece of software. It was so hard to map, like, okay, how is my life going to be different in the day-to-day interaction and how I do my work and how I collaborate with others in this new system versus this old system. And it remains the same for everybody. I mean, every time we sell a piece of software, regardless of whether it's LogicGate or, I worked at SAP a decade ago, the question is, how do you make sure that your context and reference, even these people are going to go through change. And even if it's the most positive change in the world, they're still going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what is marketing and sales' job to help them not only understand, why you're better, why you're different, why your stuff is more complete and meets their requirements better, but helping them map in the sales cycle before they buy their reference and their context so they can like walk into that relationship, into that partnership with an understanding of how their work is going to change and a certain level of comfort with it. Like these people are going to be with us the whole time. They're going to help to guide us. And I think that, having that try and buy experience, like during the funnel, it can only help as long as you do it right, as long as you provide guidance, as long as you provide some kind of frame of reference for them to start that mapping earlier on.
I love that. Now, it is Sour and Sass. Are you ready, Gina?
I am. My 11-year-old told me to avoid the lemon, anything lemon.
I'm about to do lemon, so I wish your 12-year-old was.
And I got to show you, this has been on my desk since you sent me the candy, because my children have been like, they're like scavengers. They're like, got candy on her desk. So
they're like little sour vultures. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I got the Warhead Black Cherry.
Oh, I just put mine in. It's terrible. Okay, I want to warn you too, Gina. We're going to do two, okay? The second one is worse. It's not even close, by the way.
I'm drooling and my jaw hurts.
Okay, get ready. You're doing something that we all do.
Drool?
And
oh
man,
yeah.
So industries.
I thought this would taste better. Really
industry content. You have this industries drop down.
Mm-hmm.
Does it work anymore? Like, honest to God, like everyone has one.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone go to industry pages and buy? Like, honest question. Like,
yeah.
Do you see it as relevant as it used to? Like, we all have them. Ironically, like I've had them before for my own website. Almost all our customers have them. Like, does it work? I don't know. Like, I've struggled to make it work for my own stuff. I'm curious your perspective.
So again, it goes back to removing the friction
Right.
or preventing friction. So if people want to self-select on industry, then you have to give them a path to do that. I don't think that it's the number one way people interact with our content.
Yeah.
In the governance, risk, and compliance space, people's roles tend to lend themselves to certain use cases. So I think actually the best performance, if you can call it that, people like to navigate towards
Use
very
case
specific
content.
applications.
Yeah, use case content's taking off, and it's like replacing industry as like this like thing. That's why I was curious to take.
If it doesn't hurt to have industry on there, and you do get some interaction with that site, why not leave it? If people are, I mean, healthcare.
Well, that's a fundamental difference, Gina. I want to stop you there because there's a fundamental difference of what you're communicating. You're saying, because there's two parties going on right now in SaaS, which is really interesting. You have this one group that says, we want to take this very customer-centric but controlled buying experience, and we are going to tell you why you need us. And what you're saying is, we're going to create as many ways as possible to allow someone to self-identify with us and choose why they want to work with us instead of telling them, right? Because there are these two paths, and you'll see it in SaaS where they're getting rid of like, I'm telling you, like they're like product pages are gone. It's like just like this one like kind of thing. They're like trying to control them, and I don't love it, but I do like it when it's a tool. But it doesn't really. You see what I'm saying? Like because you have these like different funnels, like a tool. They're like, this is why you need our tool, but it's a platform. A lot of times, it's like here's everything you could do. Is there a middle ground in that? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, because two very
there has
ways.
to be a middle ground. Yeah. Do you want to control the variables in your control? Sure. But the buyers are completely in charge. And it's been that way for years. Yeah. And so is your job to tell them what you think you want them to know to make it more likely that your stuff gets the better attention? I don't know. I would argue that your job is to provide an experience that is relevant, interesting, and useful, regardless of who they are and where they come from and what they care about. So if it's a financial services, so if I'm a global bank, I get probably 200 alerts a week of new regulations or changes to regulations that I as a global bank have to sift through to figure out if I need to comply, if there's anything different about my risk management that I have to comply with. So if I'm a global bank and I'm a risk manager in a global bank, I might actually go and visit that financial services page to see if we have a solution that can help them with that. Removing friction from the buyer's process, meeting them where they are with the information needs they have and understanding their buying jobs at that phase is marketing's work.
See, and I like that because it's like a realistic way of thinking about personalization. I think what people are trying to do is they're trying to consolidate the experience and then trying to make it as relevant to each individual, whether it's like asynchronous IP lookup so that the page is dynamic or but it fails. If we're being really transparent, like that level of trying to control and personalize isn't relevant with the technology we have today. And so there's this like thing, because my only issue with your approach, and it's not that yours is wrong or anything, it's just very hard to get compelling messaging and positioning right.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? It's like very hard to get someone, what I call is apathy to action. Really hard to pick your own adventure and then make sure every adventure is compelling.
You're right.
Because it's such a bandwidth of content. Like the problem with industry pages, how do you do industry pages that aren't just crappy and instead have like relevant case studies, testimonials, content? Because now you have to have 30 times more content. You have to have, you see what I'm saying? So like when you do the choose your own adventure, you also have to essentially like increase all your bandwidth. And it's not that one way is better or not. It's just like, how do you think about getting the messaging and positioning right on choose your own adventure?
Yeah. On choose your own adventure, you have to really study and prioritize the root cause of why the pain is. And even though on our website you see many different applications and many different use cases in many different industries. But the root cause is that people whose job it is to manage risk in their companies have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They need to run programs and have systems that supercharge and enable those programs so that they can make sure that they understand what their risk is at any given time and be able to prioritize the actions to mitigate it. That's actually, like, regardless of whether it's incident management or third-party risk or strategic risk, like, what if there's an earthquake where my data center is? What do I have to do to control that? Business continuity, everything through COVID.
Yeah.
The root pain is I got to have programs and plans to deal with any kind of risk I have. And I need a system to actually supercharge that, because without a system, you can't have everything in one place. You can't see everything, and there's huge risk in that. And so that red thread throughout is, as long as that red thread runs throughout, you can flavor that thread by the different applications, by the different industries, by the different use cases. So really hone it, like, and it takes a lot of conversation with your buyers.
It takes a lot of content, right? You have to have enough bandwidth to create the content so that, because like if you make a financial services page, it's not actually good enough to compel someone who like clicked on it. It won't work, right? So we have to like get enough assets, enough content, enough information that when they do choose their adventure, the adventures is awesome. I think that's why people are not like, I think that's why people are consolidating their user information architecture and their flows, because they don't have enough content, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think it's also, data can be used for good and data can be used for evil. And I think we have so much data these days. And if you see that one page is not performing, it can go on the hack list because it's like one less thing to maintain. When it's like,
they go in their GA,
really understand, maybe,
coming from industries, and they're like,
let's do a gut check and make sure that your root cause of your problem isn't that people aren't interested, it's that you got bad stuff on there. Let's ask your buyers, let's ask the market. It's very, the way of intaking customer and not even non-customer, but archetypical buyer feedback, there are a vast amount of ways to do that.
I love that, Gina. I like to always make the joke of like, did you actually read it? I know it sounds terrible, but as marketers, is like, we put all this content on our websites that a lot of times we've never even read, and we read it, we're like, oh shoot, I'm not more likely to buy us after reading this than I was before. And then I go read my competitor stuff, I'm like, oh, I'd probably hire them. And if you can stay that honest, that's when the change comes, because you're like, yeah, I need to like. And so I always ask people, like, how many people here would actually buy, like, have actually read their content and think it's good? And it's always jokes. Like, everybody starts laughing because a lot of us just put it up, but it's not with our heart or our soul. It's not a creative, like, artistic, like, proud thing. It's like a tactical thing. And the problem is, like, that doesn't work. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, content, because we're supposed to do content, fails so bad.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard.
I'm a big believer in the big rock content and assembly and packaging versus fixed asset thinking with content, where fixed asset thinking is like you create this thing that's like this sculpture and you use it in one cadence and then it goes in a drawer. I think a lot of businesses still struggle with that.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't scale. And so, but the really important success factor in a big rock atomization model is make sure that it's the right rock and that actually reflects what the buyer cares about. What the buyer cares about, because if you miss the big one, then you're pretty much screwed for the rest of the content that you produce off of that big rock.
1,000%. Now I have one last question, but before, are you ready?
Wait, so I still have the other one in my mouth. What am I supposed to do? It's like, should I spit it out and then like open the next one?
I guess that's one.
Because it actually tastes good now.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem. It gets the good. Yeah. At the end, you get the sugar, right? And it's like, oh, this is not bad.
Yeah. Hold on. Hold on. Okay.
Love it. That's a pro move.
So this is the watermelon.
Okay.
And I'm also not looking forward to this one. But
for all my repeat listeners, I'm allergic to melon, so I have to sift through all the candy. Oh, which one did I just do? Oh my God. I've been told.
It's like,
So,
ugh,
okay.
my eye is watering ever so
Gina,
slightly. That
pricing.
tastes terrible.
It's so bad. Pricing.
Mm-hmm.
You did I'm not going to give you a price, but I'm going to give you how we price, which I thought was actually really clever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's the things that drive our pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Just as I think demo product environments and ways to experience products, whether it's trials, fake data, whatever that is, pricing. And by the way, all this stuff I don't do either, right? Consulting, someone comes to you and says, I want to do this. I don't be like, oh, here's a sample proposal, right? I have to build a custom strategy. I also don't have pricing on my website. And if I did, it would probably look like yours, right? Here's kind of how we price, but not pricing. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that forever. I don't think you're going to be able to do that forever. What does the future of pricing look like in your mind for this B2B SaaS platform, not just a simple tool?
Yeah.
Right? Like, are we all going to have to go to seat-based? Are we all going to have to go to usage-based? Is it all going to have to be transparent? Like, what does tomorrow look like for pricing, and kind of how are you trying to future-proof the way you're leveraging pricing? Because in my opinion, right, if I got LogicGate and your two top competitors, right, and then the chief risk officer, I don't know the titles in your space yet, but let's say the chief risk officer says to their, by the way, chief risk officers don't look for anything, right? They go to their director of risk and says, hey, can you get me 3 quotes? They go on your Gartner report, they get you, a couple other players. My opinion is people who get them into the product the fastest and have the most transparent pricing are most likely to win that deal a lot of the time. So we talked about product. What does pricing look like, and how do we get there in these environments?
Yeah. Future pricing, again, will need to be reflective of removing friction from the customer journey. And the reason that we chose to talk about our approach to pricing on our website was because we wanted to be very upfront about the packaging and the value that, so we solve a very old set of problems in a very new way. It's not a new category. I mean, I marketed GRC when I was at SAP in 2012. Like, this stuff has been around for a long time. And as such, there are a lot of different ways to go about buying a system to tackle those problems. And so the packaging and pricing strategy that we disclose on our website is reflective of what we believe, based on how our customers have historically bought, based on what we know about the way that, kind of pricing in SaaS has been going, is what we believe is the best value for our customers. When you are doing a packaging strategy, I mean, you can't talk about pricing without packaging. And it's that analogy of McDonald's tried to test a Happy Meal with a salad instead of fries, and they actually charged less for it, and it flopped. Why? Because kids like their burger, fries, and a Coke. That's the package. You have your main thing, and then you have your fillers, and you can actually charge a premium for that whole package. But as soon as you throw in something that they don't want, your premium goes away. Even if you, and so our philosophy is provide a package that represents the value for what we provide specifically to solve their problem. And I mean, is everyone going to have to go seat-based pricing? I don't know. I mean, I think that the future of technology is so flexible, and it will be so rooted in the buyer needs and the buyer information needs. I mean, look, these are millennial buyers now.
Are you going to be able to keep it behind a wall, though? I guess, is it like, can you keep it like what you're doing? Because you're at least doing something, which you at least have a pricing page. Like, I can't tell you how many people don't even have that. So you're doing that first step. How long before the second step is where you're having to lead with it? Because all the DevOps products are doing it, right? If you try to buy a New Relic or a Sumo Logic, or everyone's going there, whether it's usage or seats.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. That's true. Not everybody is, but do you think they can if their competitors do? Like, do you think you can not lead with pricing if the market changes?
I think we'll look at it carefully. We actually have for a company our size, we have a very disciplined and research-based motion around pricing. And we have a quarterly sync. We have a yearly, like, real intentional effort around making sure that we are continuing to package properly and price properly.
Yeah.
And so my answer to your question is not sure yet, but we'll be ready if that is the pivot that we need to make to provide the value that our buyers expect and provide the transparency that our buyers expect.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's like, because the hardest part is being the first mover, because you have to, because it's not that the current way is broken, right? So you have to be literally willing to fall on your face. But I feel like the person who can move first in the platform space around product and in the platform space around pricing, everyone's going to have to try to catch up. And I feel like there's a true first mover advantage there. And that's why I want to ask this question, because it's something that it keeps staying in my mind, because I'm thinking about acquisition, right? Like, the reason this is so important is, okay, your paid media campaigns, right? They're all based on auctions. And so what happens every time a net new competitor moves into the space, it increases your CPC by a greater percentage than you can raise your price, creating diminishing marginal returns on your gross margin. And so theoretically, what we need to be able to do as marketers is figure out leverage on activation. In other words, not leverage on acquisition, but leverage on activation. And so to me, the most leverage we can get is not through, A/B tests and clicks, studies and messaging, but instead through product and pricing differentiation. In other words, like material differences between our product and the others. But it's so hard to get there, if that makes sense. It
is hard to get there, and it varies by industry.
Exactly.
So if we start hearing that pricing differentiation is a needle mover beyond the usual, like, discounts and, like, my budget is this, make it work, then we will, you gotta listen. You gotta listen to your buyers, and you gotta listen without ego, because, I've definitely been in some environments where it was like, if I'd asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, like the Henry Ford quote. We know better. Like, at our peril. At our peril, we ignore. If we're going to make the investments to listen, we have to be ready to stare in the face any realities that, might not necessarily match with what we'd rather do. It's hard. Pricing and packaging is very hard. It's an art and a science. And I do agree with you, though, that the more innovative and first mover advantage you can get, but only in the service of what removes friction from that buyer journey.
I love it. Gina, this has been amazing. Awesome conversation. I love that you and I got to actually get in the weeds of this, which is hopefully a very different interview than you ever have done before. So this was really fun. But thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in. That is Sour and Sass.
Sour and Sass.